now in the polls anyway. All right, joining me right now, Kathleen Saucier. She is the mother of retired U.S. Navy sailor Christian Saucier, who on Friday, not on Friday, but was sentenced by a federal judge to 1 year in prison and a $100 fine for taking photos inside the engine room of a nuclear submarine. And her attorneys appealed to the judge and said, look, Hillary, no charges were pressed against Hillary, and look at all she did, but the judge wasn't buying it. So Kathleen, welcome.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk out about the double standards.
It is my pleasure, and I think my obligation almost. With my forum available, it has to be granted to you. Talk about, first of all, when you heard the FBI director come back again yesterday, what went through your mind?
Well, a lot of things went through my mind, and then I just sat quietly for a minute and prayed and asked God to give me the words that I needed to say to get the American public to acknowledge this double standard. And so I put a statement together, and it's on our Facebook page, but I'll try to repeat it the best I can. So what I stated was that every American needs to acknowledge and recognize, at first I was saddened, and then I was disgusted by what happened with Director Comey. I really truly felt when he came out a little over a week ago with a letter to Congress stating that there were additional emails that needed to be exposed. I really felt he was doing the ethical and the right thing and acknowledging that there was a double standard, and he was going to hold them, as he should, to the same standard as every other patriotic American. I was saddened and disgusted when he stated there was nothing in those emails, because as you stated, and Donald Trump stated, and so many others have stated, how could he have gone through, or his staff have gone through 650,000 emails in that short of a period of time? So I want to clarify something. You stated my son was retired. Unfortunately, he didn't have the opportunity to retire. He was supposed to be medically retired, but in fact, he was provided an other than honorable discharge based on the fact that he was sentenced to a felony of mishandling classified information. So in 2009, when my son was 22 years old, there were no cell phone bans on submarines. He and many other submariners were taking photos at that time of nostalgic value, not for anything except to say, this is where I was, this is what I did when I was 22 years old. And unfortunately, my son's cell phone was lost and found outside of the Navy purview, whereas two others during that time period, the Navy gave them a reduction in rank and a $560 fine. So my son was found outside, and the FBI and the Department of Justice became involved, and instead of allowing the Navy to handle it in the manner in which they had the others, they chose to go forward with a pretty extensive investigation, which many have possibly speculated it could have been in the cost of millions to taxpayers over the last years. And so that's where we are today. Flash forward, my son just reported to federal prison on October 12th, and he's serving a 1-year sentence, 6 months house electronic monitoring, and 3 years federal probation, as well as losing all of his military and veteran benefits.
And this is because he took a picture in the sub and brought the picture home? Is that it?
Right. So it was 6 photos that they were that this was about. And so I want to give the comparison that I always try to give.
Yeah.
So with mishandling classified information, there's no intent required. It merely means that you have classified information, or could be you have classified information on an insecure device. So in this way, both my son and Hillary are the same. My son admitted to having 6 photos of classified photos, which were at the lowest level of classification on an insecure device. Hillary Clinton and her staff have been shown over and over to have had classified at high levels of classification on an insecure device. And this is where it gets different. So my son, there's no evidence whatsoever that he ever transmitted or shared those photos with anyone. And the judge stated clearly that he felt my son had no intent to harm his country, that he was making a very dangerous mistake, and merely the act of having photos or classified information on an insecure device was a risk, and the risk was all that was required for the crime.
Right. So intent. So Kathleen, we're almost out of time. So intent did not enter into your son being sent to jail or convicted, but with Hillary, that's what they're saying. There was no intent, so she skates. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. The prosecutor, or
Yeah.
they stated there was no intent required for the crime of mishandling classified information.
Outrageous. Give me a website real quick if you have one that we could help you.
Absolutely. American Patriots Against Double Standards. And so we're on Facebook as well as
American
APADS.
Patriots Against Double Standards, Facebook, and look it up online. Kathleen, thank you. God bless you and God bless your son. Up next, thank you. Up next, the panel. Don't go away.